안녕하세요. 림베이시 싱가포르 남자입니다. 네, 안녕하세요, 여러분들. So today I am touching on a highly spiritual topic. Okay, does heaven and hell exist? And if they do, where? Now this is a very spiritual based topic, and I'll be making my explanation not from the point of view of any spiritual tradition or religion, but from my own spiritual journey and my own personal realizations. If you have been following my videos, you know that I only share in my videos what I have experienced and realized within myself, rather than stuff that are in books or videos. I don't share stuff that I know about. I only share stuff in my videos which I have experienced internally, right? Now, but what a lot of people do not know is this is a lot of people think heaven is up there, hell is down there. Yes or no? This is the classic view. Heaven is somewhere up there, hell is somewhere down there. Now, there's a few problems with this view. Now, first of all, let me clarify. I'm born of a Christian family, okay? I attend church since young, and there was a period of time for about more than a year, I was a Sunday school teacher as well. So, and sometimes my friend asks me what kind of books I read most often. To be honest, all my life, when I think back, the book that I read the most in my life, okay, is actually the Bible. I have read the Hebrew version, the Greek version, all kinds of translations, because I was so deeply interested in the Bible, not just as a spiritual text, but as a history of mankind. It explains to me where I come from, what journey I took to become me today. So that was my interest in this whole thing back then, right? So especially a lot of Christians, they think like heaven is up there and hell is down there. Now I'm gonna break that bubble a little bit. First of all, is this: heaven is not up there, heaven is not down there. There is, if you are a Christian, if you are a real Christian, if you are a real Christian of the Hebrew Bible and of what Jesus said, rather than everything else the later day people added on, okay? If you read whatever Jesus said and then you read the Old Testament, there is no heaven, there is no hell. There is not a single mention of heaven being a paradise where everybody live in peace, and there is not a single mention of hell being a burning furnace. Those are later date verbal traditions coming from Dante's Inferno and all that things, okay? And some people's vision far after the time Jesus. So if you're a real Christian and you're following what Jesus and the old traditions are teaching, there's no such thing as heaven and hell. There are only two mentions in the Bible that alludes to what seems to be heaven and hell. First, heaven being paradise. The only mention of paradise actually is Eden, where God planted a garden of paradise called Eden on earth. That's the only real mention of a paradise. There's only one real mention of something that is hell, but it was not even labeled as hell in the New Testament. That wasn't even from Jesus, okay? That was from Lazarus. When Lazarus came back from the dead, he said he saw a place which is dark and with gnashing of teeth. Basically, it's a dark place full of suffering. There is no fire and all these things. Now, what Lazarus saw, you got to be very careful with what he saw, because he never called it hell either. We don't really know what is this dark place with this gnashing of teeth at all. Okay, there's no idea. Jesus never went into this whole thing either. So in the real Christian tradition, there is no such thing as heaven and hell. In the real Christian tradition, when a Christian dies, a real traditional Christian will reject cremation and will always bury in sacred ground. Why? Because that is when you rest in peace. You're just resting. You're not going to heaven or hell anymore. You're just sleeping in a deep state of peace. And what? And waiting for the second coming so that you can rise from the dead again. This is the whole backbone of real, true Christianity, okay? But Christianity somehow twists and turns to become right now, after you die, you go to heaven or hell. No, it wasn't like that. Okay, if it's like that, then nobody would rest in peace, because after you die, you will either go and party or go and suffer. You're not resting in peace. Okay, the rest in peace, the show comes from the original Christian idea, or the Abrahamic tradition idea of being laid in a sleep-like mode. And honestly, in my own near-death experience, yes, I had a near-death experience back in spring of 2017 in Korea. It actually felt like that, but I will go into that in future videos. So now we're clear, no? Even in the classic Christian point of view, there's no such thing as up there is heaven, down there is hell. There's no such thing, no. And the next thing is, what is up there? What is down there in the first place? This is earth. This is up or down. If you're up, then this is down. So where is it? There's no up and down in the first place. Where is up and down in the whole cosmos in the first place? But in my experience, heaven and hell exist. Heaven and hell both exist where? Here on earth. Okay. This is what a little bit like what the Hindu and Buddhist tradition called the samsara. Now, so heaven and earth is not up and down, no? It's outside and inside. What do I mean? This I did not take from all these Buddhist or Hindu texts. It's my own personal experience. Yeah. To me, at this stage that I'm trying to convey, okay, out here is heaven, inside is hell. Why? Okay, so that's why I say, if you take this from any spiritual text, they will tell you that outside is hell, inside is heaven, right? But I'll clarify this. Why outside is heaven, inside is hell? It's because of this. Outside meaning the real world. The real world today, right now, my real world is this sofa that I touch, this wall, this beautiful home, the beautiful sky I see outside the window right now. This is the real world right now. This moment, this only true existing moment that is not part of my memory, is the real world. Now, in this real world, where's the death? There's no death, there's no calamity, there's no bad president, there's no COVID even. Where is COVID? Where is COVID? In the real world that you are at that moment of time, when you look around, it's always peace and beauty, pretty much just paradise. Wherever you are, if you can just shut off your mind and be in the present moment, and you start to see the real world around you rather than your imagined world, it's actually paradise. Which brings us to hell. So where is hell? Hell is in here. Hell is what I call the story world, meaning the world that you create in your own brain based on information given by your parents, your culture, these days mainly the media, the internet. And then that forms the background of that imagined world that you call reality. That's the thing. People call that reality, okay? That world is full of calamities, full of war, death, bad president. Yes, it may exist somewhere, but you are not there. It is not part of your current real world reality. To you, it exists only as a story. And you know what? You're living that story. You're living in that story. That is the background story. And then the foreground story. Oh, what about this problem, that problem, this problem, that problem? Everything that your brain comes up with, okay, creates an alternate world. This alternate world I call the story world. And this alternate world is the place of gnashing of teeth. All day long, you're trapped in it. All day long, you're suffering the stress of everything. You're suffering right now what someone told you yesterday. You're suffering right now what one hater commented on your Instagram yesterday. You're suffering right now what your mom said 10 years ago. Everything is all in. You're suffering right now because on the news the president said this, the whoever said that. All this You're suffering 24 hours a day. For a problem that requires only 5 minutes to solve, like your work problem, you create a story in your story world and you leave that problem pretty much 24 hours a day. This is where you're all stressed out, you're miserable, you're bitter in this story world. And therefore, this story world pretty much is a hell. Unless you learn how to separate yourself from hell and come to the present reality, the real world of paradise, you'll always be stressed out, you'll always be gnashing your teeth, you'll never experience the peace beyond all understanding. The real world paradise is the real external world here. The hell where of gnashing of teeth is in here. The story world that you create and you subconsciously live through. In fact, most people you live through automatically all your life in here. Your body seems to be doing everything automatically. You automatically flare up at people. You automatically get angry at certain things. Were you really in control? Because if you were in control, why were you regretting what you said 2 hours later when you cool down? You were pretty much just like a dream, you know. In a dream, you're doing a lot of things. You know that it's you, but you have no control. It's exactly the same when you live your whole life through the story world. See? And then by the end of your life, you start to think back and you regret a million things that you should not have done this. Why did you should not have done all this? Because those were not your choice. You were compelled automatically. In fact, when you drive to work in the morning, were you thinking about traffic? No, I bet you sit in your car, start up the car, and then once you start driving, the next moment you're aware, you're already there. Yes? It's all automatic. Everybody put themselves in autopilot for everything. You autopilot your eating, you autopilot going to work, you autopilot drinking, you autopilot every aspect of your life. Therefore, in the end of your life, you feel like you've not lived your life at all. That is hell. Okay? So the whole question becomes, how do we separate ourselves from the story world and live in the real world? As you can see right now, you only need to interact with the story world for survival purpose, to make money, to solve problems, to deal with your work plan, yeah? The thing is, you don't need to be in that world 24 hours a day in order to do that. In fact, for most people who spend all day long thinking about work, I bet you never wrote down even one line of an actionable item, right? For most practical work purpose, you only need to set aside about 15 minutes to 30 minutes, just focus time thinking about the problem and really writing down solutions and to-do items. That's what I do. And therefore, instead of thinking about that problem 24 hours a day, I separate myself from the story world. I live in the real world where there's no problem, where there's none of these things most of my time. And then when my timetable, I have a routine, says it's time to think about work for 30 minutes, that's when I sit down and engage the story world and I start to come up with all those, I start to come up with, okay, I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to use this to solve my problem. I end up becoming much more productive than someone who think about that problem all day long with no solutions, you know. So now the question is, how do you actually do that? Now, sadly, your brain is so conditioned to live in the story world, which is to live in hell. Basically, the whole world looks like hell to you. That's why the Buddhist traditions and the Hindu traditions call it samsara, call this world samsara, which is the world of cyclical suffering. Okay. Now, the thing is, it takes training to train your brain to separate itself from the story world and inhabit the real world. It takes actually training because your brain is not used to doing that. Your brain has already accepted that hell is my reality. So the brain needs to be trained to do a different function. Just like your muscle, if you want to do a certain sport, you have to develop a new muscle. Same thing, you have to make your brain develop a new muscle in order to do this. And so far for me, I created what I call the story world meditation system, which I make available here in this playlist. Just check out this playlist. There are many stages. Basically, I don't even like to call it meditation system. I call it just brain training. You're just training a brain. Basically, we're training our brain to get more and more moments away from the story world, so that in the end, you spend most of your time away from the story world. Okay, that is the key to living making heaven on earth. The heaven on earth that Jesus spoke of, the heaven on earth which is paradise, which is Eden that God planted, is here right now. You just have to know how to access it. You just need to know how to get past the cherubim and the flaming sword to get back into the paradise. And you have to train your brain in order to fight the cherubim and the flaming sword in order to come back to Eden, you know. So you may ask, so what's the point of doing it? Well, do you want to live in heaven or hell? You can choose to live in heaven, but you need to put in the work to get past the cherubim and the flaming sword. Yeah. So you have to train your brain to do that. Second, once you do that, amazing. So little stress in life. I have the most stressful job in the world. I'm an options trader, you know. But do I look stressed every day? You know, I really experience and deeply enjoy life, right? And I experience very minimal stress. That's why I stay young, 46 years old. I'm still an anti-aging guru. And because of all this, my cortisol level is low, my anxiety level is low. I don't need to consume comfort food, snacks, or all that kind of things. I don't need to spend money to entertain myself. I don't need to smoke anything or drink anything or take any substance. And because of all this, I'm more and healthier. I look younger. I save money. A whole lot of benefit, right? Now, you may ask, you know, some of you more hardcore Christians, can't sound hardcore, but well-read Christians may say, but didn't Jesus actually say that the kingdom of heaven is in us? Yes, that is actually the most spiritually significant line that Jesus said, which could not have been made up by or misinterpreted by people who were listening at the time. That the kingdom of heaven is within you. So if the kingdom of heaven is within you, doesn't that mean that heaven is within and hell is without? No, it means heaven is without and hell is within. Why? Because the original Aramaic text, which is the original language in which Jesus used and how it was originally written down, kingdom of God is actually, the original text is actually the light, the divine light or the eternal light. So later day Christians don't really understand what this means, so they call it the kingdom of God, you know. But the original text for kingdom of God is eternal and divine light. So what Jesus is actually saying is that the eternal and divine light is within us, which is the reality. Once you learn how to reside in the paradise world, the divine light shines through from within you, and it does all these miracles for you, and you really feel and experience life on a completely different level. This was what actually Jesus meant. If you guys are interested in what Jesus really said, I say one of the most spiritually significant thing is, of course, the Lord's Prayer. Now you may say the Lord's Prayer talk about heaven and all this, and wow, for God, you're in heaven, all this thing. No, that's a misinterpretation. I challenge you just to Google for the original Aramaic text and the literal translation of the Lord's Prayer. You will see something very different what Jesus was saying, right? So yeah, I this is just something that I realized from deep within. I didn't take this from anything, or any books or any videos. To me, this is my living reality that I'm sharing with you guys. You may agree, disagree, depending on your experiences and your level in life and a lot of other things. But this is just me sharing what my own realizations, right? And I hope that this sharing can help some people to relieve yourself from that form of suffering. Of course, there are many different other sources of suffering, and there are deeper reasons for why you suffer the hell of the story world in the first place. I'm not going to get that deep, because for most modern practical purpose, just being able to distance yourself from the story world already do you a whole world of good. Being able to distance yourself from the story world and as much as possible reside in the real world already does miracles for your life in so many ways. So yeah, if you have been practicing my story world system, let me know what your experience is in the comments below. Right. See you guys next time. 안녕.